Dragon Emperor's Son Chapter 611 to Chapter 620. Before Long Wu could answer him, he saw 4 people wearing exactly the same clothes with similar helmets on their heads walking over, with only one pair of eyes exposed. Looking at the 4 people who suddenly appeared, David was stunned for a moment, because he felt that the breath of these 4 people was obviously much stronger than him, and they seemed to be higher than that bull. It seems that Kyoto is really the place where the crouching tiger, hidden dragon is. In just one night, David actually saw so many masters, and all of them were able to kill him in seconds. And Long Wu saw the 4 people, but he didn't show the slightest expression, just looked at the 4 people quietly. 4 people walked to David and Long Wu, one of them just glanced at the dead bull, and then said to Long Wu, "Long Wu, you know the rules of Kyoto. In this downtown area, it is not allowed to cultivate immortals. What should I do if I hurt innocent people?" Team Seeing, it was the bull who made the first move. "Did you see these wounds? They are all masterpieces by the bull." Long Wu pointed to the wound on David's body and said, "I don't need your explanation, I already know it, but I remind you, I can't control how your Long family fights, but if it hurts innocent people, don't blame me for being rude." Team Seeing said coldly. "Understood." Long Wu nodded, obviously still a little afraid of the person in front of him. Seeing Long Wu's promise, Team Seeing waved at the corpse of the bull on the ground, not knowing what technique they used, but the corpse of the bull disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the hole that was smashed out on the ground, also recovered directly. This time, David was stunned. He really couldn't see how capable this person was in front of him. However, David had already guessed the identities of the few people in front of him. They should be the people Chong Yuanjun and Zhao Waoqi had mentioned, who were not bound by anyone and were in charge of the security of the capital. The 4 people came and went quickly. From the beginning to the end, several people did not look at David, because at this time David was like an ant in their eyes. The 4 of them walked back. Long Wu glanced at David, and also thought of walking towards the exit of the alley, but Long Wu hadn't said what David wanted to know. He couldn't just let Long Wu go, or he would. "I don't know when I'll find out." David caught up with Long Wu and blocked Long Wu's way. "Tell me, who am I? Who are you? Do you know the Irvin?" David asked anxiously. "I said it, after July 15th, you will understand. If you ask me now, I won't tell you. You can go back with the medicine I gave you, your body is too weak." Long Wu looked at David and shook his head slightly. After dodging around David, Long Wu continued to walk out of the alley, but this time David didn't stop Long Wu, because he knew that Long Wu didn't want to say. It was useless for him to stop, and Long Wu didn't want to say anything. Wu wanted to leave, but he couldn't stop it. Qi sinks into the danshan, yin and yang change, the flesh and blood are separated, the blood flow is dry, the internal organs are all broken, the body is reborn and the body is tempered. Long Wu was muttering something while walking, but David could hear it clearly. Listening to Long Wu's words, David frowned slightly at first, and didn't understand what Long Wu was talking about, but after a while, David took out the medicinal pill that Long Wu gave, and his eyes suddenly lit up. "Body tempering pill, is this body tempering pill?" David showed surprise on his face. It seemed that the words that Long Wu had just muttered were actually body tempering formulas, which were used to temper the body. Wanting to understand this, David wanted to follow Long Wu to thank him, but when he looked up, there was still Long Wu's shadow. David excitedly returned to the hotel with the body-quenching pill, and directly locked the door. David sat cross-legged on the bed, holding the body-quenching pill given by Long Wu, and David swallowed it in one gulp. After the body-quenching pill entered the body, David only felt that his internal organs were like being burned by fire. The whole person was very uncomfortable, and the hot feeling made David's forehead full of sweat. David gritted his teeth and urged his spiritual power to resist this hot feeling, but it was of no use at all. But when he thought of Long Wu's words, David hurriedly put away his spiritual power, because to temper the body, it is necessary to let the body endure this pain in order to achieve a reborn body. Putting away his spiritual power, David silently recited the condensed heart formula, guiding the hot feeling in his body to move around his body continuously. David's eyes were tightly closed. At this moment, his whole body had turned red, just like steel being burned red by fire. Generally, David gritted his teeth and insisted, and he didn't utter a word no matter how painful it was, but a cracking sound came, and the piercing pain hit David's whole body. The bones of David's body seemed to be unable to withstand this kind of force, and began to burst, but the cracked bones were also rapidly condensing, as if they were rejoined. The blood in David's body also began to evaporate slowly under the scorching. Through the red skin, one could see the blood in David's veins flowing, but the flow became slower and less. David did not use any spiritual power to fight it except for the guidance of the concentrate heart art. The severe pain almost made David faint several times, but David gritted his teeth and stood up. I don't know how long it took, and David didn't know that his bones were broken and long and broken several times, until the body no longer felt that hot. David opened his eyes. It is still dark outside the window at the moment, the stars in the sky are twinkling, as if witnessing the growth of David. David looked at his body and found that the clothes on his body were long gone. He was completely naked and did not emit any spiritual power, but David's body carried a force of coercion. Momentum. David clenched his fist, looked down at himself, and found that the injury on his body had long since disappeared, not even leaving a trace of scars. The whole body had become bronze, and David could even clearly feel the steel-like texture. Bones. Even if David doesn't use any spiritual power and relies solely on his body, it is difficult for ordinary people to hurt him. It feels like a long time, but I didn't expect it to be useless overnight. David got up, walked into the bathroom and washed his body, ready to sleep and rest. David had just finished washing his body and was about to sleep when Zhao Waoqi called. Mr. Chen, I found those people in Miao village, in a courtyard in the western suburbs. Zhao Waoqi said to David anxiously. Okay, I'll be right there. David hung up the phone, changed his clothes, and then took a taxi and headed for the western suburbs. At the same time, in a courtyard in the western suburbs, Zhao Waoqi was leading people to surround the courtyard, and following Zhao Waoqi were the 5 chiefs of Miao village. The status of these heads in Miao village was equivalent to the gang's law enforcement general. George Zhao, we don't want to conflict with you, you make way now, and we'll go back to Miao village immediately. Dolly looked at Zhao Wuji, and said with a bit of solemnity on his face. In order to find you, I gave up so much energy, do you think I will let you go back easily? You Miao village are so courageous and dare to attack the son of the leader of Chang, I think you are impatient. Zhao Wuji roared angrily. Zhao Pavilion Master, I have just learned about Chang's son, and I will definitely investigate it. If it is found out that someone from Miao village did something to Chang's son, I will definitely give Zhao Pavilion and Chang's leader an explanation. I hope Pavilion Master Zhao believes in me. Dolly Tiu said with a pretense. He pushed the matter cleanly, saying that he didn't know at all. Looking at Dolly Tiu's shameless appearance, Zhao Waoqi sneered, you are talking nonsense here, do you think I will believe it? Since I found you today, don't even think about leaving. Zhao Waoqi would not believe Dolly Tiu's words. After all, a puppet worm the size of a fist could not be cultivated by anyone in Miao village. Seeing that Zhao Waoqi was biting hard and not letting go, Dolly Tiu's complexion also became ugly. Zhao Pavilion Master, Chang Gongzi has recovered now, and there is no serious problem, and we have no intention of murdering Chang Gongzi. Why are you pressing every step? If it really annoys us, it's up to you people. Can't stop us. Dolly Tiu threatened Zhao Waoqi. Zhao Waoqi saw that the head of Dolly was a little impatient, and his heart was also constantly beating drums. Although there were a large number of people in Zhao Waoqi's group, if he really did it, he would not necessarily be able to stop these heads of 5. He can only hope that David will come soon, otherwise Zhao Waoqi will be too embarrassed to be run away by these people from Miao village. Seeing that Zhao Wuji didn't speak, the corner of Dolly's head raised his mouth slightly. He knew that Zhao Wuji was afraid. After all, Zhao Wuji's strength could not compete with the 5 of them. Dailatu didn't pay attention at all. George Zhao, this is a misunderstanding. We will definitely apologize to Leader Chang in person. Now we have other things to do. I hope you can let me go. Dailatu said, winked at the others, and the 5 people began to slowly walk out of the courtyard. As soon as Zhao Waoqi stretched out his hand, he directly stopped the first few people in Dolly. You can go, unless you step over my corpse. Zhao Waoqi had already made up his mind, even if he died here, he would not let the people from Miao village leave, otherwise he would not be able to explain to the regular reinforcements. Seeing Zhao Wuji's stubbornness, Dolly's head suddenly burst into anger and said, Zhao Wuji, don't think you are the pavilion owner of the Dharma Protector Pavilion. I don't dare to do anything to you, believe it or not I can slap you to death. Stop talking nonsense, let's do it. Zhao Waoqi set up a battle, and the other members of the Dharma Protector Pavilion also showed their weapons one after another. Seeing this, Dailatu knew that he would not be able to leave if he didn't do anything, so he said, Brothers, stop these people first, we are looking for David, remember, don't hurt their lives. Dailatu knew that if the lives of people like Zhao Waoqi were hurt in the capital, it would be difficult to handle, and it might lead to the perverts in the capital. Whether it is a monk or a warlock, the reason why they dare not act recklessly in the capital is because they know that there is a secret team in the capital, secretly guarding the safety of the capital. You want to take revenge on Mr. Chen? Zhao Waoqi frowned. He didn't expect that the people from Miao village would take revenge on David. After all, the puppet was killed by David. Retaliation? We are too lazy to take revenge. Besides, Qian Feng should be damned. It's just that we are entrusted by others. What we promised others should always be done. Dailatu thought that Zhao Waoqi was talking about David killing Qian Feng, the righteous son of the Miao king. Both misunderstood each other's meaning. However, Zhao Waoqi didn't care why, instead he wrinkled every day, entrusted by someone? Could it be that someone from the Qin family found you? In Kyoto, the only one who has hatred with David is the Qin family. Don't worry about it. Then David is not a member of your Dharma Protector Pavilion, and he is also a warlock, not an ordinary person. Even if we kill him, it is not a broken rule. Dolly Tiu didn't say it, but Zhao Waoqi knew that it must be the Qin family. And these people from Miao village were indeed entrusted by Qin Xiaotian. Qin Xiaotian gave them benefits that they could not refuse. Only then did these people from Miao village promise Qin Xiaotian to help get rid of David. Since you want to deal with Mr. Chen, you can't leave, because Mr. Chen will be here soon. Zhao Waoqi said to Dolly Tiu. It wasn't that Zhao Waoqi betrayed David on purpose, but that Zhao Waoqi knew that it was impossible for him to be David's opponent with just the few people from Miao village. Sure enough, as soon as Zhao Waoqi finished speaking, the head of Dolly was slightly taken aback. Then David is really here. Of course, I called Mr. Chen. Zhao Waoqi nodded. Dolly Tiu looked at Zhao Waoqi, and suddenly sneered, in that case, let's wait for him. Do you want that David to stop us? When David arrives, I will let you know what you think. How naive and ridiculous, although David's strength is not bad, but when he met 5 of our brothers, he couldn't fight back at all. Dolly Tiu is not afraid of David at all, although David has the ability to kill Qian Feng, to force out his puppet bug, and kill his puppet bug, but in Dolly Tiu's eyes, these are nothing. Although the strength of the few of them fighting alone may not be very high, the most terrifying thing about them is that they are united. After more than 10 years of tempering, these 5 people have already cooperated tacitly, as if they were one person. Seeing Dailatu's confident appearance, Zhao Waoqi suddenly felt a little lost. He didn't know whether he was right or wrong when he called David over. If David was really not the opponent of these 5 people, how could he be? Wasn't he an accomplice? Just when Zhao Waoqi was a little overwhelmed, thinking about whether he should call David, David had already arrived. Pavilion Zhao. David walked into the courtyard and shouted at Zhao Waoqi. When Zhao Waoqi saw David arrived, he hurriedly greeted him, "Mr. Chen, you have to be careful, these 5 guys in Miao village are very difficult to deal with. If you see something wrong, you run away, leave us alone. They don't dare to kill us, but they will kill you. It is estimated that the Qin family will give them a lot of benefits." Zhao Waoqi reminded David that he hoped that David would run away if he couldn't beat him, and don't die in vain. David glanced at the 5 people in the Miao village, smiled slightly at Zhao Waoqi and said, "It's fine, I will pay attention, but I have to say it before, if they kill me, then if I kill them, I won't. Are you causing trouble to Pavilion Master Zhao? No, I will send someone to record it. If they really want to kill Mr. Chen kills them in self-defense. If the people in Miao village don't agree, I will show them. It's just that when you are fighting, I'm afraid I can't be of any help." Zhao Waoqi knew that if it was a life and death struggle, his status would not be suitable to intervene, and even if he intervened with his strength, it would be useless. "I can do it myself." David was full of confidence. After the body was tempered, David had not fought yet, and now he was eager to know how far his body had reached. "Pavilion Zhao, you are very fast in finding people. How come you found these people after only half a day's effort?" David looked at Zhao Waoqi with admiration and said. "Half a day?" Zhao Waoqi was stunned. "Mr. Chen, this is the 3rd day. I used all my manpower to find these guys. If I can't find them tonight, you will leave tomorrow. Then I don't know what to do." David was at a loss for words. He had no concept of time when he tempered his body. When he opened his eyes, he saw that it was still night. He thought it was only a few hours later. "Mr. Chen, are you all right?" Zhao Waoqi asked worriedly, looking at David's appearance. "Oh, it's fine, I'm sleepy," David smiled lightly, and then walked towards the 5 major heads of Miao village. Dailito looked at David who was approaching, with a bit of surprise in his eyes, because he did not expect David to be so young. He seemed to be in his 20s, yet he had such strength. "Are you David?" Dolly asked David. "Yes, I was the one who killed your puppet." David nodded unabashedly. Dolly's eyes froze. He knew that David said this to deliberately anger him. After all, he had cultivated that puppet bug for more than 10 years. "Boy, I admit that your strength is very strong. It is rare to achieve such strength at such an age. It's a pity that you are too crazy. If you let you practice for 10 years, maybe I am really not your opponent." Dolly said solemnly. "You don't need to practice for 10 years, and you are not my opponent now either." David said lightly. "Ha ha ha, you kid is really arrogant. If that's the case, then I'll kill you first." Dailito said. Suddenly he punched towards David. His fist was wrapped with a trace of black qi. Under the strong wind howling, the black qi was able to condense and not disperse. David looked at the dolly head attacking him, but he didn't even move, he didn't even show a resistance action, he was planning to resist the punch of dolly head. Seeing that David didn't move, Zhao Waoqi panicked a little, and hurriedly reminded loudly, "Mr. Chen, don't be careless, there are poisonous gas on their fists." The black gas wrapped around Dolly Tiou's fist is all highly poisonous. Even if one punch can't kill David, the poison gas on the fist touches the skin, which will instantly make the skin fester and lose its combat effectiveness. But David still stood motionless as if he didn't hear Zhao Waoqi's reminder, which made Dolly Tiu a little overwhelmed. He doesn't know what the H3LL David is doing. Is there some trap? Dailito's movements slowed down, and he carefully observed David. He was afraid that he would fall into David's trap. "I'm standing still, are you scared?" David raised the corner of his mouth and sneered at Dolly's head. Court death. Dolly Tou was provoked, his slowing down speeded up again, and his strength reached its peak. He wanted to deal with David with one punch. The reason why David angered this head of Dolly was to let him use all his strength to see what kind of attack his body could withstand. Mr. Chen. Seeing that David still didn't dodge, Zhao Waoqi hurriedly took out a short sword, ready to step forward and defend David against the punch. Don't worry about it, just watch. David said to Zhao Waoqi. Zhao Waoqi really didn't know what David was going to do. Could it be that he was confident that he could resist this punch? The arrogant child! Dailata was completely angry, and the black qi on his fist became thicker and thicker, and at the end the black qi emanating almost had to surround David. Bang! With a dull sound, David's body was directly knocked out by the huge force, and flew straight for more than 10 meters. Finally, he hit a wall and collapsed the wall. The wall that collapsed suddenly buried David directly. This time, everyone was stunned. Even the head of Dolly was stunned, staring blankly at the collapsing wall in the distance. He always thought that David would stand still and there would be some conspiracy, but he didn't expect that David was actually standing still. He flew out with a punch, and Dolly Tou didn't even feel the slightest resistance. Zhao Waoqi was dumbfounded. He had seen David's ability before, and he knew that David was a cultivator. Even if he couldn't resist a punch from Dolly's head, he shouldn't have been sent so far. It looks like David is there no resistance at all? What is David doing? Suicide? Zhao Waoqi couldn't understand why David did this. Ha ha ha, Pavilion Master Zhao, this is the helper you found? Isn't this a fool? I really don't understand. How did he kill that Jianfeng, and what did he rely on to kill my puppet bug, that's all? For the goods, the Qin family actually gave 10 million, I am really embarrassed to ask for so much. Dolly had laughed loudly. He really didn't expect to get rid of David so easily and smoothly. Zhao Wuji's face turned red and white when Dailata said it, but he was unable to refute. He could only look at Dailata coldly and said, Mr. Chen is young Master Chang's savior, if you kill him now, is the leader Chang? It will be easy to give up, and now you go back with me obediently, so as not to implicate your entire Miao village. Gate Master Zhao, I advise you to see the reality clearly, you guys can't stop us at all, so you should just get out of the way, lest I do it. Dolly said without hesitation. In that case, let's do it. As Zhao Waoqi spoke, his aura exploded in an instant, and the other members of the Dharma Protector Pavilion that followed were pressing forward, surrounding Dailatu and the other 5 in the middle. Gate Master Zhao, do you really want to force me to do it? Dolly Tou's eyes narrowed slightly, with a chill in his eyes. Stop talking nonsense, order to return, it is impossible for me to let you go, I know your skills are brilliant, but unfortunately you forgot that this is Kyoto, my territory. After Zhao Waoqi finished speaking, a group of members of the Dharma Protector Pavilion suddenly appeared from the surrounding walls and roof of the courtyard, but these people were all holding sniper rifles, and the red dots of the scopes fell on the 5 people in Dolly's head. These people are Zhao Waoqi's trump card. He can't put all his hopes on David alone. Although Kyoto does not allow large-scale use of firearms, and the first few people in Dolly are not guilty of death, if sniper rifles are used, these people will, I'm afraid it will be difficult to survive, and it will really arouse the anger of Miao village, and it will not end well. But now that David's life and death are uncertain, the people from Dailatu insisted on leaving, and they didn't listen to Zhao Waoqi at all. Zhao Waoqi had no choice, so the snipers showed up. Sure enough, looking at the snipers that appeared, the faces of the first few people in Dolly were obviously cautious and flustered. Although they were very strong and skillful in their techniques, they had not yet reached the point where they were not afraid of firearms. Their bodies were also fleshy. If you really want to be hit by a gun, it is also a blood hole. Zhao Wuji, are you trying to kill us? Dolly frowned and looked at Zhao Wuji angrily. Snipers were used, obviously, to bring them down with guns. You follow me obediently now, I can guarantee your safety. If you dare to resist, kill me. Zhao Wuji's face was gloomy and cold. A sentence of kill made Dalatuo instantly furious. It's a good sentence to kill, don't blame me for being rude today. After Dalatuo finished speaking, his hands twitched suddenly, and then he said something in his mouth, execution of Buddha and ghosts. Following Dalatuo's incantation, a rustling sound was heard, and a cloud of black mist surrounded Dalatuo. Zhao Waoqi was stunned for a moment, his brows furrowed as he listened to the strange voice. What? Suddenly, a member of the law enforcement pavilion screamed, and then Zhao Waoqi saw countless insects, ants, snakes, and rats crawling into the yard at a high speed, and the scalps of those who watched closely were numb. Wherever these things passed, no grass grew, and even the walls collapsed in an instant. Shoot! Shoot! Seeing this, Zhao Waoqi could only command loudly. Bang bang bang! With the sound of gunshots, the first few people in Dolly could not be hit at all. At this time, the few people were wrapped in black gas and lost their targets. These snipers could only shoot randomly. Seeing those insects and ants getting closer and closer, Zhao Wuji held a dagger in his hand, his aura skyrocketed, and his clothes began to move without wind. As a great master, Zhao Wuji was already able to release his energy. Drink! With an angry shout, the short sword in Zhao Wuji's hand swung in front of him, and a gust of wind suddenly blew, and the roaring wind blew a large area of those insects and ants instantly, but soon those insects and ants gathered again. And there are more and more gatherings. There are already many members of the Guardian Pavilion covered with these ants. Because these things are too many and too small, these members of the Guardian Pavilion have no strength, but there is no way to put them on the body. Ants are eliminated. Fortunately, these insects and ants are not poisonous, otherwise these members of the Dharma Protector Pavilion would have been poisoned and died. Zhao Pavilion Master, get out of the way and let me go, why should you let your subordinates suffer again? At this time, Dalatuo's voice came to mind in the black air. Zhao Waoqi's face was gloomy, and the short sword in his hand had been swung countless times, but every time the insects and ants were blown away, they would immediately gather together again. At this time, Zhao Waoqi already felt the fatigue of his body. But looking at his subordinates who were in pain and rolling all over the floor, Zhao Wuji was extremely difficult. Insects are afraid of fire, Pavilion Master Zhao doesn't even know this, right? Just when Zhao Wuji was in difficulty, a voice suddenly sounded from behind him. Zhao Waoqi was stunned for a moment, looked back hurriedly, and found that David officially stood up from the rubble. Mr. Chen, you're not dead. Zhao Wuji was surprised. Death? David smiled lightly, you don't think I can die so easily, do you? No, I know Mr. Chen will definitely not die. Zhao Waoqi was excited, David was an immortal cultivator after all, how could he die so easily? And the dolly head looked at David who was unscathed, and the whole person was stunned, his eyes were full of incredible. Even if David didn't die, his punch just now was enough to break David's muscles and bones, and just now his fist was filled with poisonous gas. Nothing stood in front of him. How is this possible, how can you be unscathed? Dalatuo looked at David in disbelief and asked. You can't hurt me with your little skill. David smiled coldly. Dalatuo looked at David's full of ridicule, and was going to be mad. Prepare the torches. Zhao Waoqi commanded loudly at this time. Soon, the people of the Dharma Protector Pavilion began to look for everything that could burn and ignited it. Seeing that he found a way to restrain these insects and ants, David is also in good condition, Zhao Waoqi also has confidence in his heart, and looked at Dolly head coldly, you can capture it now, and you can avoid the pain of flesh and blood, otherwise don't blame me. You're welcome. With Zhao Wuji's short sword in hand, his body suddenly shook, and his aura surged up. At this moment, Zhao Wuji, who had been depleted of energy, erupted with endless fighting power. Ha ha ha, do you really think I'm capable of this? Dali Jiaoyu laughed arrogantly, then looked at the other Li Jiaoyu behind him and said, "Brothers, let them see our true abilities." After speaking, the 5 people actually sat cross-legged and surrounded Dali's head in the middle. The 5 people's bodies exuded black energy, and they seemed to be chanting incantations. Soon, the ants that had receded attacked again, this time in greater numbers, but these ants were not attacking people, but kept condensing together, and soon formed a human figure several meters high. Monster. This humanoid monster also exudes black aura, and it is obvious that there are many poisonous insects in it. Facing this humanoid monster several meters high in front of him, Zhao Waoqi's complexion changed dramatically, and the members of the Dharma Protector Pavilion were scared and retreated. Shoot, shoot! Zhao Waoqi directed those snipers to shoot at the humanoid monster. Bang bang bang! Dozens of bullets headed towards the humanoid monster, but unfortunately these bullets hit the humanoid monster, and after a large hole appeared, it would heal immediately, because it was formed by countless insects and ants. Even if it was shot with one shot a big hole, other ants will fill in immediately. Seeing that the sniper rifle couldn't do any damage to this humanoid monster, Zhao Waoqi's face became more and more ugly. But looking at the men whose faces changed dramatically and kept retreating, Zhao Waoqi knew that he couldn't retreat, so he had to set an example, otherwise he would only be defeated. Kill! With courage, Zhao Waoqi jumped up high with a short sword in his hand, and then a sword slashed down towards the humanoid monster. I saw that the humanoid monster slammed a fist, and the fist wrapped in black energy smashed into Zhao Wuji's body, and Zhao Wuji's body flew out like a kite with a broken string. Moreover, the body also began to be eroded by black gas, and the entire complexion became extremely dark, which was obviously a symptom of poisoning. The pavilion. When the members of the Dharma Protector Pavilion saw that Zhao Waoqi was injured and poisoned, they all shouted anxiously. Some people wanted to rush over and catch Zhao Waoqi. "Do not move!" David roared and made these people stop. If these people came into contact with Zhao Waoqi, they would also be poisoned. Everyone was stunned for a moment, and then watched David jump up and directly catch Zhao Waoqi. David looked at Zhao Waoqi with his eyes closed and his expression was very painful. Although the punch was not serious, the fog made Zhao Waoqi unbearable. David stretched out his hand and pressed lightly on the top of Zhao Waoqi's head. The poisonous gas from Zhao Waoqi's body began to be sucked into his body by David. These poisonous gas is a good resource for cultivation, and David will not waste it. Soon, Zhao Waoqi's complexion improved and he slowly opened his eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Chen." Zhao Waoqi looked at David gratefully. "Gate Master Zhao is very polite, I'll go and get rid of this monster," David said and walked directly towards the humanoid monster. Seeing this, the humanoid monster smashed David with a punch. The huge fist was almost as big as David's entire body, but David didn't care, he just raised his hand lightly and smashed the humanoid. The monster's huge fist was caught, seemingly effortlessly. When Dali Jiaoyu and the others saw this, they were all slightly startled, and then they accelerated the speed of chanting the incantation. They saw that the humanoid monster opened its bloody mouth, and countless black qi sprayed towards David from its mouth. But before these black qi came into contact with David, he saw that David opened his mouth and was directly sucked into his stomach by David. At this time, the huge humanoid monster also began to struggle a little, because at this moment David's hands also looked like it is a huge sucker, sucking all the black energy from the humanoid monster into the body. Soon, the black gas surrounding the humanoid monster was completely sucked by David, and the humanoid monster collapsed directly, turning into countless insects and ants, covering the entire courtyard. David pointed a finger, and a group of green flames jumped, and after seeing the flames, these insects and ants all fled. This is the real fire David used in alchemy. Burning these insects and ants is simply as easy as the palm of your hand. With a wave of David's palm, the green flames blanketed the ground and shrouded the ground, directly burning the insects and ants. This. Looking at the insects and ants that have all been eliminated, the faces of several Litas suddenly changed dramatically. David was not afraid of any poison, which shocked them, and at the same time, they also had a deep fear in their hearts. Their Miao village is good at poison, but now David is not afraid of poison at all, and it seems that there is nothing to do with inhaling those poisonous gas into the body, so what they are good at using poison has no effect on David. Is this what you do? David sneered, what other means, use them all. Dali Tou got up slowly, and there was still a trace of sweat on his forehead. He just used such a big technique, which consumed a lot of his internal strength. David, we have no grievances or enmity. You forced us to do it just now. Now we apologize, can you let us go? Dalato compromised, and after seeing David's strength, the frantic look just now disappeared. Leave. David raised his mouth, didn't you take the Qin family's money and take my life? Why did you just leave like this? Dolly's head was choked and speechless. They really have no grievances or enmity with David. Even if David killed Jian Feng, the adopted son of King Miao, he had nothing to do with them. It's a pity that they are greedy for money, and they are interested in the Qin family's 10 million revenge, so they want to kill David. Otherwise, the punch that Dolly had just swung at David would never kill him. It's a pity that David's strength is too strong, even if it is a hard blow from Dolly's head, it can't cause any damage to David, and even their proud techniques have no effect on David at this time. You obediently follow Pavilion Master Zhao to plead guilty, and I can spare your life. David looked at the leaders of the Miao village with an air of dominance over the world, and said lightly. Dolly frowned. After shaking his teeth, he nodded, okay, we promise to follow Pavilion Master Zhao to plead guilty to the law, and to confess to Leader Chang. I hope you can keep your promise and don't do anything to us again. In the face of the huge gap in strength, Dalato has no other choice. If they don't agree to David, then what awaits them is death. As long as your Miao village doesn't trouble me, I'm too lazy to care about you. David has no interest in paying attention to Miao village anymore. Since meeting the real master of immortality, David is full of curiosity about the undercurrent of Kyoto. He really wants to know what his identity is, who is that Long Wu, and what does it have to do with him. All these troubled David. The first few people in Dolly lowered their heads and walked in front of Zhao Waoqi, but as soon as Zhao Waoqi waved his hand, several people from the Dharma Protector Pavilion came over and handcuffed all of them. Take it back, and let Leader Chang be released tomorrow. Zhao Waoqi waved his hand, and let some people take away all the leaders. Mr. Chen, thank you for taking action. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to catch these people at all. Zhao Waoqi looked at David gratefully and said. It's just a little effort. David didn't feel anything, he just wanted to help. Mr. Chen, I didn't expect your strength to be so terrifying. You took a punch, and your body was intact. Zhao Wuji remembered the incident of David's resistance to a punch, and he was envious. When would he be able to do this? What a powerful metamorphosis! David just smiled and didn't say anything. He didn't expect his body to be tempered to this point. It seems that the body tempering pill that Long Wu gave him is really a good thing. How many times stronger? Mr. Chen, several people from Miao village have been caught. If you want to go back to Horindal, I will send someone to send you. Zhao Waoqi continued. Gate Master Zhao, don't bother you anymore, I plan to stay in Kyoto for a while, and when I want to go back, I can just take the car. The appearance of Manyu and Long Wu made David change his mind. He wanted to stay in Kyoto for a while, and maybe he could meet other immortal cultivators. The main thing was that David wanted to inquire about the secrets of his life experience in Kyoto. Then Mr. Chen is careful, then the Qin family will not let Mr. Chen easily. If Mr. Chen needs any help, just call me. Zhao Waoqi reminded David. Thank you Pavilion Master Zhao for reminding. David smiled slightly. Leaving from the western suburbs, David returned to the hotel and lay on the bed of the hotel. David recalled the scene of seeing the bull and Long Wuxi. These are the two most powerful people he has ever seen so far. At the same time, Qin Xiaotian of the Qin family was listening to the housekeeper's report, and the whole person was furious. Trash, it's really fucking trash, these guys in Miao village are just phony, 5 people can't even deal with one David. Qin Xiaotian slammed his fist on the table, smashing the table to pieces. Third Master, I think it's not that the 5 major heads of Miao village can't deal with David, but that David has a helper. I heard that Zhao Waoqi first led people to surround the 5 major heads, and also brought snipers, or else that how could David be an opponent? The butler explained. Hearing the housekeeper's explanation, Qin Xiaoshan's face became even more gloomy. This David, there are so many people protecting him, it seems that I can only wait for my eldest brother to go out and avenge Feng'er. In Kyoto, David was guarded by the Guardian Pavilion and the Bai family, and now there is a 6-door permanent reinforcement, which makes Qin Xiaotian dare not act rashly against David, and can only wait for Qin Xiaolan to leave the customs before making a decision. Third Master, there is one more thing. The ancestor of the Qin family is going to celebrate his birthday. We also received the invitation. What gifts should we prepare? The housekeeper asked Qin Xiaotian. Qin Xiaotian frowned and sighed slightly. Their bloodline is considered to be a collateral line of the Qin family, so they are not taken seriously. They usually have little contact with those orthodox Qin family members, but at this time of the year, the ancestors of the Qin family will pass their birthdays, and every time they pass their birthdays, their sideline almost has to donate countless rare and precious treasures. This is the case every year, which makes Qin Xiaotian have a headache when he hears the word Shao. But they can't say anything. After all, they are orthodox, and Qin Xiaoshan's second brother is still there to study art and has been there for more than 10 years. Speaking of which, Qin Xiaotian and the others were lucky enough to be able to choose one person to go to the Qin family to study art. You must know that there are other Qin family collaterals, not to mention paying tribute every year, there is no such opportunity at all. Has my second brother brought a message this time? How is his study? Qin Xiaotian asked the housekeeper. The second master brought a message, saying that he has been able to enter the clan ancestral hall. He asked us to send some more things this time, so that the second master can be valued. Said the butler. Second brother can enter the ancestral hall. Qin Xiaoshan's face showed excitement. Great, this proves that the second brother has also stepped into the ranks of monks, and when the second brother returns from his studies, who would dare to oppose my Qin family in the entire capital? Home, the Dharma Protector Pavilion, there's such sh. T. Qin Xiaoshan's face was flushed because of his excitement, his eyes were full of excitement, and there was a bit of envy in his excitement.